Hi, my name is Aahana Shankaran, and this is Crash Course Literature. Today we're going to dive deep into the literary devices used and seen in The Tempest. For those of you who don't know, The Tempest is a play written by the famous playwright William Shakespeare. The Tempest depicts the tale of a powerful magician named Prospero and his journey for revenge and soon redemption. But you might be asking, well, what is a literary device? Well, a literary device is a technique that writers utilize to create a special effect in their writing in order to convey information and help readers understand the piece on a deeper level. The first literary device we're going to talk about is tone. Now, what is tone, you ask? Excellent question. Tone is what the author wants you to feel when you're reading his or her creation. Here's how that relates to The Tempest. In The Tempest, one can see that the tone shifts throughout the 5 acts. So to make this easier for you, faithful viewer, we found the main 3. Now your brain may be thinking, how are there 3 different tones? It's a comedy, so obviously it has to be funny, and that's it, case closed. Well, that is true. Upon a deeper examination of the text, you find, for lack of a better phrase, a tonal heaven. As we peel away the layers of this complex Shakespearean play, we reveal the first act's tone. The first act paints a frantic tone with the use of its powerful, brash word choice, and in the opening scene to the play, it says there's a tempestuous noise of thunder and lightning. In Act 1, Scene 1, Line 1. A strong storm in your mind, if you will. Now, I know a simple storm does not solely create the tone, so to commence, we're going to talk about how the characters interact with each other. So in Act 1, Scene 1, Line 11, the mariners cry out, "I pray now, keep below." This adds a dangerous undercurrent to the scene, and it shows that it's a life or death situation, and that if they don't get below and get to safety, they could die. This frantic behavior and this frantic run for safety adds to the tone. The second underlying tone is seen around Act 2. It's all about mysterious, mysticality, and the unknown. This is displayed throughout Shakespeare's writings in the story, and it's all about the magical occurrences and the quirky, unknown characters he ends up portraying. An example of a seemingly inhuman character would be Tranquillo, a native of the island who is believed by Caliban to be an apparition of Prospero himself. This adds to a magical vibe given by the undiscovered culture with its own beliefs, magic, and power. Along with the mystical characters that we see many instances of, we also see Prospero's magic as well as his familiar, Ariel. So the supporting role of Ariel serves as a mystical guide to Prospero, and it further creates a sense of awe and mystery as to how many people can be magical. When Ariel is a key element of the play, he's a key character, and many of the plot points come because of him. So that ends up making magic an inherent part of the story's plot, also making it a key part of its tone. Then, near the end of the play, the tone switches to the more upbeat, humorous tone that one would expect of a Shakespeare comedy. For instance, this play actually has a happy ending. Though Shakespeare's affinity for happy endings has been remarkably dulled by his more famous plays, such as Romeo and Juliet, or Macbeth, this play is one of the perceived rarities. No one dies. Prospero ends up reclaiming his previous position, and his daughter is happily married. The noticeable shift in tone goes kind of like this. The story starts frantically to grab a hold of the viewer and reel them in. Then it ends up switching to a more laid-back, mysterious, mythical tone, just to really develop the world and to develop the universe that the story is taking place in. And all while giving the viewers a happy ending at the end, giving them a bounce in their step and a smile on their face as they end up leaving the Globe Theatre. Next, we're going to move on to imagery. Imagery is often associated with mental pictures. However, this idea is only partially correct. Imagery uses figurative language to represent objects, actions, and ideas in a way to appeal to our physical senses. Now, Shakespeare uses imagery often in many ways throughout the book. And this is partially because Shakespeare was a playwright, and he needed a way for the audience to understand what the actors were saying with limited amount of props and mainly only the word choice. So in Act 1, Scene 2, Miranda begs her father to end the storm. And he started describing that the sky seems that it would pour down stinking pitch. In Act 1, Scene 2, Line 2. So basically she's saying that the sky is so dark, it looked like it could rain down hot boiling tar. So now realize how the use of the simile will paint a picture in your head when you're like reading or even listening to that line. So additionally, we know what hot boiling tar is. And by using that object, it makes the image even more powerful by appealing to our sense of touch. Okay, so furthermore, in Act 3, Scene 3, when Gonzalo points out that Alonso, Sebastian, and Antonio's guilt is like poison given to work a great time after, written in line 128, it also appeals to our sense of touch. I'm pretty sure none of you have been bitten by something poisonous, but if you have, I'm sorry about that. However, we can pretty much imagine what it feels like when guilt is gnawing at you like poison and is slowly shutting down your body. Both of these descriptions show that Shakespeare uses imagery not only for us to see it, but hopefully to feel like we are inside that moment of action as well. So now that we have talked about how imagery uses figurative language like similes and metaphors, let's talk about other types of figurative language that can be found in The Tempest. Figurative language is used by writers to be persuasive and impactful. Here are a few examples. One type that Shakespeare uses is hyperbole. A hyperbole is an exaggerated statement that's not to be taken literally. Writers often use this for emphasis. Miranda, when she and Prospero are talking about their past, Miranda replies with, "Your tale, sir, could cure deafness." This is in Act 1, Scene 2, line 106. And she says this when Prospero was asking her if she was listening. Now, even though the tale would not quite literally cure deafness, Miranda replies as such because she wants to emphasize that she is listening very attentively and that she actually wants to know what Prospero is saying. Another figurative language used is personification. Personification gives human attributes to non-human things. They're often used to connect the personified object to the reader's emotions. One example used in The Tempest is the muse upon the waters, allaying both their fury and my passion with its sweet air. This is in Act 1, Scene 2, line 392. As Ferdinand grieved about his father's death, he hears music, which calmed him and also showed the connection between calming music and his emotions. Shakespeare also uses alliteration in the story. Alliteration is the use of repetitive consonants of multiple words that occur together in a series. They're used by writers for emphasis and to create the mood of a story. One example used is, "Full fathom 5, thy father lies." The F that is repeated symbolizes the flow of the sea. Ariel states this to emphasize to Ferdinand that Alonso is dead and to create a gloomy environment. Lastly, onomatopoeia is used. Onomatopoeia is like a word that mimics a sound that is found in real life, and it's used to add humor and to be expressive. So, for example, when the spirit sang ding dong to emphasize the death of Ferdinand's father by mimicking the death bell. Another example of a literary device used is called an allusion. An allusion is a literary device used to convey semi-hidden meanings through references to another figure, action, or an event. In The Tempest, Prospero is written as a biblical allusion to God. Now, while Prospero was alluding to God, his oldest servant, Caliban, was alluding to Satan. In Act 1, Scene 2, line 383, Prospero speaks to Caliban, addressing him as "thou poisonous slave got by the devil himself." Then this is quickly followed up by a remark from Miranda, talking about how he is something which any print of goodness will not take, being capable of all ill. This is seen in Act 1, Scene 2, line 423 to 424. This ends up giving Caliban the place of the devil in the story, both by blatantly calling him as such, as well as touching on his inability to perform acts of goodness and his affinity to perform bad ones. So, Caliban plots both to kill Prospero and to violate Miranda, and shows no remorse, also building a layer of him as Satan. Now, Prospero, however, ends up being the one to cast him off, as God ends up doing to Satan. Another thing linking Prospero to God would be his ability to raise people from the dead. So, in Act 5, Scene 1, lines 48 to 50, it says, "Graves at my command have waked their sleepers, oped and let them forth." So, these allusions give the reader the ability to draw parallels by both helping them understand the story on a deeper level, while also allowing them to stay hooked onto the actual plot of the story as a whole. And now we're moving on to paradox. A paradox is a self-contradictory statement that, when explained, may be proved true. A paradox makes the readers think about the statement in a way that they might not otherwise. Some common examples include the beginning of the end, or ignorance is strength, or even less is more. In The Tempest, Shakespeare uses paradoxes to create a deeper meaning to the story and also to prompt readers to think about the story on a deeper level. So an example would be in Act 2, Scene 2, in lines 190 to 192. Caliban goes and sings, "Ban ban Caliban. Has a new master, get a new man. Freedom, high day." So this is somewhat of a paradox because it will make the readers wonder something like this. Wait, but how can he be a slave to a master and be free? Wait, what? When Shakespeare prompts this process, not only is he getting his audience to think a little more about the play, he's also getting them to understand Caliban as a character better. So, let's recap. In this video, we've learned what literary devices are, how they're used in The Tempest, how The Tempest uses tone, imagery, and figurative language, such as hyperbole, personification, alliteration, and onomatopoeia, to bring layers to the story, as well as how The Tempest uses allusions and paradoxes to make the reader really think about what's going on. Thanks for watching Crash Course Literature 2.0, brought to you by, you'll see in the credits.